Super Soaker Weekend. Saskatoon and Southwest Sask get drenched by rain. Jurors hear dramatic testimony at the first day of an inquest into a fatal police shooting in 2022. Plus, limited resources send northern wildfire evacuees across the border to Alberta.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It's Monday, July 21st. CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Hello, I'm Natasha Lipney, filling in for Ethan Williams this week. Canada's premiers have gathered for a three-day meeting in Central Ontario. A few issues are on the agenda, including how to respond to Donald Trump's trade war. Kate McKenna has more.
As the clock ticks to the August 1st trade deal deadline, premiers are kicking off a three-day summit in Ontario's cottage country.
I'm feeling fantastic. Welcome to Huntsville. What a great town.
Top of the agenda, trade and tariffs, and making Canada's economy more resilient in the face of Donald Trump's economic threats, including plans to tear down interprovincial trade barriers.
Never quick enough, never far enough, but the important thing is that we keep taking steps.
We are an economic powerhouse, and we don't have to take a backseat to anyone.
Today, premiers met with Indigenous leaders, some of whom have expressed serious concerns over plans to fast-track major projects like pipelines and mines while still respecting Indigenous rights.
They have to make sure, though, that there's space for First Nations people at these tables. We cannot be left, as an afterthought anymore.
Balancing the need for economic participation that benefits Métis governments and their citizens, and making sure that those benefits don't come at the expense of, duty to consult.
Premiers are pitching it as an opportunity to work together.
We think this is a great opportunity for economic reconciliation with First Nations, but we think that that's going to be a way that we can make sure that we're addressing both the national interests as well as historic reconciliation issues.
This is an opportunity of a lifetime. This door is only open for so long, and I'm getting endless messages from chiefs around the province. I want to be part of the economic zone. We welcome them.
Tomorrow, the Prime Minister is set to join the premiers. He's expected to provide an update on how trade negotiations with the United States are going. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Huntsville, Ontario.
Meanwhile, the Saskatchewan NDP says Premier Scott Moe should take advantage of this time at the meetings in Ontario to advocate against Chinese tariffs on canola. Those tariffs have been set at 100% on canola oil, canola meal, and peas since March 20th.
When Scott Moe returns home from the Council Federation in 3 short days, he needs to come back with an actual plan to end these tariffs. He needs to come back and convey directly to our agricultural producers what he's going to do to have their backs.
To combat the effects of the trade war, the Saskatchewan government has announced that it's boosting the compensation rate for the Agri-Stability Program. It will go from 80 to 90 cents for every eligible dollar of margin decline. Elsewhere in Ontario, the Prime Minister was having a meeting of his own. Mark Carney and Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand met in Ottawa with a group of senators from the United States. They discussed ways to protect one of the world's most robust trading relationships amid Donald Trump's trade war.
We are 4 United States senators, Democrats, Republicans, here to talk about making sure that in the days ahead, we build on a productive economy for Canada and the United States.
The meeting came a week after Trump threatened to impose a 35% tariff on some Canadian goods on August 1st. Carney has said a trade deal with the U.S. will likely include some tariffs. Storm sewers could not keep up with rain in Saskatoon this weekend. That resulted in some flash flooding around the city, with some streets turning into lakes. Almost 50 millimeters of rain fell in Saskatoon over the weekend. The deluge made for some tense moments in the Varsity View neighborhood. People say the area is prone to flash floods, and neighbors watched the rain inundate an intersection where crews had dug a large pit to replace sewer and water pipes.
It just rained so hard and it filled the entire pit there. The rain came all the way up, I'd say, to this tree very quickly. The rain came so hard.
Mochenko thinks the flooding in her area caused more of a mess than any serious damage. But Saskatoon wasn't the only place that got soaked. Some communities near Swift Current got more than 50 millimeters of rain on Sunday as well. Jurors at an inquest in Saskatoon are looking into a fatal police shooting 3 years ago. Ronnie Glen Herman was killed after leading officers on a foot chase through the Mayfair neighbourhood. The inquest is set to run all week, with 14 police testifying. CBC's Dan Zakreski brings us this story.
Police at a coroner's inquest say Ronnie Herman called on officers to shoot him moments before his death in October 2022. Jurors at the inquest are hearing how Saskatoon police killed Herman in this house on Avenue E North. They had warrants for his arrest because he was supposed to be under house arrest in La Loche, but he was on the loose in Saskatoon and armed. Two members of the Gangs and Gun Unit say they tracked Herman to the backyard of the North End house. They confronted him in the alley and they say he pulled a gun. Then he yelled at the officers to shoot him. Then he took the gun, placed it against his own head, and then went back into the house. Herman wouldn't come out, so the SWAT team went in. The jurors heard the team came face to face with him at the top of a narrow staircase. Cops and paramedics outside heard yelling and then a cluster of gunshots. The first paramedic into the house came upon Herman handcuffed on the floor. The paramedic said he had never seen anyone with as many gunshot wounds. They got him into an ambulance and a hospital. He was pronounced dead in the emergency room. In the coming days, jurors will hear about a trail of ominous messages Herman left on social media. He indicated that he had nothing more to live for and told family he was not coming back. They will also hear from the forensic pathologist who did the autopsy. Dan Zakreski, CBC News, Saskatoon.
A former Christian Centre Academy director has been found guilty of assault. John Olubobokin was facing 9 counts of assault with a weapon. Former students say they were struck with a paddle while attending the Saskatoon school. The judge agreed. CBC's Aishwarya Duda has the latest.
You have thoughts of the verdict, sir?
A Saskatoon judge has found 64-year-old John Olubobokin guilty on all 9 counts of assault with a weapon. Emotions ran high in the courtroom Monday as victims let out loud sighs of relief when the guilty decision was announced. They were sobbing, holding on to each other and hugging each other as they walked out of the courtroom.
Now to have the justice systems, say this wasn't okay, that's very validating and healing for everybody.
Judge Lisa Watson delivered the lengthy decision lasting almost 3 hours. She gave detailed accounts of each victim's evidence. Former students were often accused of misbehavior, called into the director's office, told to bend over a desk or chair, and struck multiple times with a wooden paddle, sometimes with enough force to cause bruising and causing the paddle to break. She says Crown has proven without reasonable doubt that accused assaulted all of the complainants. The victims say it was a long and emotional process. They say it's a win for not just those who testified, but all the other former students. A sentencing date has not been set yet. Aishwarya Duda, CBC News, Saskatoon.
An inmate who was accused of fatally assaulting BC serial killer Robert Pickton has been charged. Martin Charret will make a court appearance on Thursday. He's been charged with first-degree murder. Pickton died in May of last year, a week after he was attacked with a broom handle in a Quebec prison. The 74-year-old Pickton had been serving a life sentence for 6 counts of second-degree murder. DNA from 33 women was found on his Port Coquitlam farm. Unionized workers at Canada Post began voting Monday on the company's latest offer. Members of the Canadian Union of Postal Workers have until August 1st to accept or reject the proposal. The contract offer includes wage hikes of about 13% over 4 years and a signing bonus. Union officials are urging members to vote against it. These talks have been ongoing for more than a year and a half. Last month, the Minister of Jobs and Families, Patty Hajdu, asked the Canada Industrial Relations Board to step in, and that forced this vote. Well, after a weekend of hit-and-miss weather, the skies were spot on for a game of pickleball on Monday. The courts were packed at Regina's Douglas Park. Will the forecast hold for pickleballers later this week? We'll be right back with the full forecast after this. Wildfires in northern Saskatchewan continue to force people from their homes. But with limited resources nearby, hundreds of evacuees have had to go next door to Alberta for refuge. The CBC's Nicholas Frew stopped by one of the evacuation centres north of Edmonton.
Wildfire has forced Canoe Lake First Nation in Saskatchewan to evacuate again this summer. But this time, there are so many wildfire evacuees in Saskatchewan that there wasn't enough room to accommodate everybody. Northern fires have forced thousands of people from their homes, and that means hundreds of Canoe Lake residents are now scattered in Alberta because other evacuees filled their neighboring cities.
Prince Albert, North Battleford, Saskatoon, Meadow Lake, so there's absolutely nowhere for us to go because all the hotels are all spoken for.
More than 650 residents are staying in 7 hotels in Alberta alone, spread out over several communities. But most are in Fort Saskatchewan. This city official says the municipality has hosted evacuees before and was ready to help.
When that phone call comes out to help, we move mountains to make things work. And whether it's something small or big, it's really important you step up and help the individuals in need.
He says the community has opened up recreational facilities to evacuees, including its community hall, where people can gather for meals. Meanwhile, the Canoe Lake evacuation management team is working at least 12 hours a day, keeping track of their neighbors.
I'm trying to coordinate between 7 hotels in Vegreville, over here. It gets overwhelming, but I'm thankful for my team because without them, I don't think I'd be standing.
The team gets daily updates from the Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency, but they're not sure yet when they'll get to go home. Nicholas Frew, CBC News, Fort Saskatchewan, Alberta.
Wildfires aren't just threatening human homes. A fire near Isle La Crosse has nearly destroyed a fir block. Devastating news for local trappers. Jeremy Warren has this report.
Wildfires are still burning across the province, but we're starting to hear concerns about long-term effects. Recent fires tore through the Isle La Crosse area, including the N14 fir block. That's a regulated trapping region. It defines who can harvest fur-bearing animals and where. Locals estimate that wildfires destroyed most of N14, and it's leaving trappers in a tough spot.
Trappers, of course, have this window of forest age that's really good for trapping and for the wildlife there that they like to see. And so once that's removed from the trap line, there's really not a whole lot to do unless that trapper can find patches of habitat elsewhere in the trap line that haven't been disturbed.
Isle La Crosse's acting mayor told CBC last week he believes that wildfires destroyed around 90% of N14. Barks says it's too early to tell exactly how much burned. He says the province won't know for sure until after the fires die down. The area is also home to vulnerable species, including the woodland caribou. So far this year, wildfires here have burned 2 million hectares.
We're going to have to kind of reassess that once the fires are kind of dissipated. We see how much is burned. We get an assessment of what's left after the fire has kind of dissipated, and we'll be able to understand that a little better going forward.
Meanwhile, federal officials say this year is already one of the worst on record for wildfires in Canada. Environment Canada says over 5.5 million hectares of land have burned so far. That's double the 10-year average for this time of year. And with hot, dry weather forecasted for August, wildfires could persist well into summer. Jeremy Warren, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Well, it's clear that wildfires are far from being out of the headlines, but for those of us in southern Saskatchewan, it was a wet weekend for the most part. Is that right, Helena?
Oh, definitely, Natasha. Yeah, many parts of the province got some rainfall over the weekend, but especially Saskatoon got a ton of rainfall just Sunday alone, causing some areas to even get flash flooding. Let's take a look at just how much rainfall fell over the weekend. As I said, much of this is just from Sunday alone. Saskatoon got close to 50 millimeters of rainfall. Places like Arley, just west of Saskatoon, got over 40 millimeters. And in the south, places like Radville got over 30 millimeters. And Moose Jaw got around 20 millimeters. So we're seeing a good amount of moisture there, and that's going to be continuing Monday night. Our radar is picking up some rainfall in the Swift Current area in the southwest. And after midnight, that system is going to be moving into the southeast for places around Estevan and Yorkton. This storm could reach severe levels with a thunderstorm. The main risks being wind gusts up to 100 kilometers an hour, quarter-sized hail, and periods of very heavy rainfall. And as we look ahead to Tuesday, we're going to continue to see some rainfall. We're seeing a heavy system coming in through our major cities like Saskatoon and Regina. There is another risk of thunderstorms associated with that storm. Into the evening, we're going to see that moving into east central Saskatchewan. And again, for places around Yorkton, going to be experiencing some rainfall. But Wednesday is going to be a mainly clear day, a chance of some scattered showers, but we're just mainly seeing some cloud coverage. Those clouds are mainly clearing by Thursday, and we're going to be in for a much sunnier and calmer day weather-wise. But there is going to be that chance of some thunderstorms Tuesday, and it looked like quite a big system passing through. The main risks are going to be for south and central Saskatchewan, especially areas around Saskatoon. Main risks being wind gusts up to 70 kilometers an hour, dime-sized hail, and periods of very heavy rainfall. But you know, rain is definitely a good thing right now. As of Monday, we are seeing air quality warnings in effect for much of the province. Up north for areas around Buffalo Narrows, all the way to Pelican Narrows, and central Saskatchewan as well for areas around Saskatoon. As for late Monday afternoon, we actually saw some air quality warnings start up in the southwestern part of the province for areas around Swift Current. And in the next few days, despite a chance of rainfall, we're not going to see much improvement, especially for areas around Saskatoon. Tuesday, we're going to continue to see some heavy smoke, and Wednesday, we're going to see that around Regina. But luckily, we are going to be seeing some rainfall that should hopefully be helping with that situation. So Natasha, I'm just going to be inside reading and watching the rain, and hopefully that air quality gets dissipated.
Okay, well, there could be worse situations than that. Thank you, Helena.
Thanks, Natasha.
The Saskatchewan government is giving more money to a housing program for formerly incarcerated women. The province has signed a 3-year agreement with the Elizabeth Fry Society. It will provide $280,000 a year for 3 years. That money is for a program that provides affordable housing for former inmates. The program also offers individual wellness plans, which can include things like trauma or addiction counseling.
This isn't just a housing program, it's a public safety initiative, a reconciliation effort, and a long overdue investment in the well-being of the women in this province. The operational funding announced today allows us to retain experienced staff, deepen our programming, and plan for a continuity of care. It gives us the tools to meet the overwhelming need we see every day.
The Elizabeth Fry Society says it has already helped 181 women through this program since it first partnered with Corrections last year.
To be honest, like my life did actually kind of flash before me. It's like, you know, is this going to be it? Like, what do we do? What do we do?
Howard Ma and Lori Arneson were hiking in Alberta's Kananaskis region when they crossed paths with this. They say the grizzly followed them until they held up their hands and roared as loud as they could. The bear then retreated into the woods. The lesson? Pack bear spray. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back. Remember that song, Head, Shoulders, Knees and Toes? Well, it's fun for a kid, but what about teaching anatomy to older children? Two University of Saskatchewan researchers thought virtual reality could help. They joined Stephanie Massicott to explain how.
The first part of the project is a tour of the brain. So they'll put on the headset and look at the pieces of the brain and be able to pull them apart and maybe see stories or images or learn things about their own brain and their mental health as far as it comes to the impact of their culture and the environment around them. The second part is a tour of different health science programs at the U of S so that students from all over the province in Indigenous communities that may not get to travel to the U of S and see things like that could put the headsets on and say, I want to look at what physiotherapy is like.
Engaging with current students that are in those programs that can maybe share about their journey so that the students in different Indigenous communities can relate to. And so they would share their journey, how they got into the program, how they're enjoying it, what supports there are for them as Indigenous students themselves. And we would take them on a tour and show them the classroom, the different interactive classrooms.
Helena Mahalik is back with another look at the weather. Helena, remind us what's in store.
Well, Natasha, we're in for a few cold days, but don't worry, things are definitely going to be warming up. Let's take a look at the forecast for the city of Regina. We are in for some showers, especially Tuesday, another slight chance Wednesday, bringing temperatures down quite a bit below seasonal, hovering just at that 20-degree mark, and making our overnight lows feel a little bit cooler Wednesday as well, just hovering at seasonal. But by Thursday, the sun is coming back out. It's going to be staying out throughout the week, jumping temperatures back up above seasonal, and they're going to be staying that way for the weekend. We're in for a beautiful weekend before a slight chance of rain into next week as well. Saskatoon is also in for some rainfall Tuesday, and temperatures quite cool, hovering even below 20 degrees. But don't worry, jumping up by Thursday, and again, just above seasonal before getting back to seasonal over the weekend. And Saturday is definitely your day to get outside. Sunday, we are seeing another chance of some rainfall, and that's going to last into next week. And overnight lows at seasonal. So Natasha, I know you were definitely wanting to get out and play some pickleball. So maybe by Thursday, that's your time to go do that.
Finally, my moment to shine. Thanks, Helena.
Thanks, Natasha.
Well, that's it for us. For more news anytime, head to cbc.ca/sask or subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel. You can also download the CBC News app on your smartphone or tablet.